Hey, it's Howard Kneller. Good afternoon. We're here at Capital Audiofest 2024. Welcome to another episode of Listening Chair. We're glad to have you. Today I'm here with audience. I have John McDonald from the company, and I have Dan Raska from the R&D department who cooks up all these great ideas they have. And they're going to tell us about some new products, some existing products. It's going to be a really interesting video. So without any further ado, let's roll the tape.
Thanks for being here, Howard and Kemper.
Appreciate that. So John, tell us about Audience, please.
Audience was established in 1997. We set out to build loudspeakers, and it's taken quite a few years to get our stride, but we feel really good about where we're at this time. But along the way, we've been known for making cables, power conditioners, power cords, and the like.
Tell us about the cable business then.
We're really known for the natural sound, and I get a lot of customer feedback that's very rewarding. Okay. And we're here today introducing our new line of cables, which is called the FrontRow Reserve, which is built upon our existing FrontRow line. It's just improvements across the board with each cable.
And
yeah.
So just so people know, in this month's issue of Copper Magazine, I did a little photo spread and a little write-up on them, so if people want to check that out. So tell us, the FrontRow Reserve, does it include digital cables? Is it all analog?
It's across the board. It's all of our lines.
And what's the design inspiration there?
Well, it's built upon FrontRow. Every time we design a new line of cables, I always think, well, that's it. That's the best we can do. And time passes, we learn new things, and so we improve upon what we've done in the past. So the FrontRow Reserve is built upon the FrontRow line. Okay.
Can you give an example of one or two?
We've implemented a little bit of silver, judiciously, I like to say. We've implemented more use of crystal formulas for RF EMI damping. We use a new RF sleeve and a few other things. Our power cords have a new grounding and shielding scheme.
Where did the FrontRow Reserve cables fall in your line?
They're the top.
They're top dog. Okay. How, are your cables available to people who are in the entry level?
Yes, of course. Yes. And our Ono line is the entry level.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So the FrontRow Reserve will now make our 6th line of cables.
Okay.
So our cables are known for being very natural in sound and coherent and flexible. And a lot of that has to do with the intention to build cables around low eddy current resistance. This is something that maybe a lot of people don't know about, but I'd like to demonstrate it.
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So what we have here are, I have a couple of copper tubes that are like your conductor in a cable, okay? Then I have a magnet that's like the signal. The signal is a magnetic force, and it passes through a conductive material that makes your cables. There's no magnetic attraction because copper is non-ferrous. So for demonstration purpose, I take a steel ball just as a point of reference and drop it through the copper tube, and as you can see, whoop, I didn't even catch it.
Right.
Okay, so then I take a magnet and drop it through, and you notice it takes 1-2 seconds to pass through. And the reason it slows down is that when the magnetic force passes through a conductor, an opposing field is created called eddy currents. Okay. Now look what happens when we go from a 1/16 inch diameter copper tube to a 1/8 inch. So that took about 2 seconds before.
Right.
Now we drop the magnet, 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's more than twice as slow. So the point is that in designing a cable, you want to use as much conductor that is needed for each application and no more.
Okay.
A lot of people ask us, why are your cables so thin? That's the reason. Because if you have more mass than is needed, you're slowing down the signal. And the field that's created by the passing of the magnetic force, it develops and then it collapses back at a later date. That causes a smear, or a thick sound. So we apply a lot of attention to this philosophy.
That was really interesting, and now I know why the cables are so thin and flexible. I guess let's have Dan talk a little bit about your speaker.
Great.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the ClairAudient OnePlus One version 5. It is a one-way crossoverless speaker, bipole design, passive radiators. It's using our own designed and unique full-range driver called the A3S2, which is this here. It's capable of some great things in terms of the driver itself. 12 millimeters of usable excursion, only 2.5 grams of moving mass into the cone, and it's capable of taking a decent amount of power and creating some great bass and dynamics. Also, what we incorporated into this version, V5, is perhaps the greatest thing that we achieved in the ClairAudient design, and that is a voicing circuitry. It is proprietary, I'm sorry, I can't say a whole lot more about it.
Okay.
And it allowed for the speaker to play with less distortion, go lower in bass, also go a bit higher into treble, be more linear. The speaker can now play at down to 55 hertz minus 3 dB point, and we also filter off the system at 40 hertz. And there's no need to ask these 3-inch drivers to do bass lower than that. That allows us to have less distortion and a better sound out of the speakers. Passive radiators, 4-inch, they're highly tuned to maximize all the bass response and dynamics from the driver itself.
What about the cabinets?
The cabinets are CAD designed, fully optimized for the volume necessary for the drivers, and just beautiful looking. We have some rosewood on the side. They're made out of MDF. And also what we're noticing a bit here, we have a different slope, a different angle on the front baffle than we have on the back. That was on purpose done to help with a step baffle effect. And also that's the same reason that we put an additional driver on the back too. That was the intent first and foremost.
And Dan, what about the stands? The stands come with the speakers, or those are extra, or you got to get your own stands? How does that work?
You have to get your own stands. What we're using here are excellent stands made by the brand Sound Anchor in Florida, and that's what we recommend.
Well, we'd love to hear some music, if that's okay. Before we do, can you maybe just take us through your system and tell us what else we'd be listening to?
Of course, absolutely. So we'll start with the amplifiers here. These are by Atmosphere, well-known company that's been around for, well, at least Ralph Carson has been designing for 50 years. They are Class D, and it's the very first solid-state design that the company has put out commercially. For sources, a couple of things. We're using an exemplar audio digital to analog converter, tube output stage with a separate power supply, and as a transport, I'm using a really good platform for transport, a Sony 4K Blu-ray player, which also is capable of playing back true channel SACD, and it does a darn good job for a retail price of $600. It serves the purpose for us at the show.
Okay, excellent.
Moving on to the preamplifier, this is a line stage version of it, no phono stage built in, the model MP3 version 3.3 with the VCAP Teflon capacitors upgrade, and also a chassis resonance control option that they do. We have the FrontRow Reserve speaker cables that John has introduced, and FrontRow XLR Reserve as well. The FrontRow Reserve HP high power version of power cords on the amplifiers, and we use the same thing on the preamp and the source. And also, of course, one of the more important things, as important as everything else in the system, is the adaptive sound power conditioner that the audience is so well known for.
Sounds good. Well, I'm looking forward greatly to hearing these simple, but I suppose simple in some ways, right? Minimalist in some ways.
Less is more.
Less is more, yeah. And so I'm greatly looking forward to hearing it.